recreation city. We are the city we are today, continue to build on that, and a city of many cultures, educational opportunities. What they also gave us in this document, it's a concise document, about 23 pages, are principles. And as someone who's been doing some planning in the city, I think this is a great set of principles. It's been helpful to us, and I couldn't recommend anything better. First one is integration. City Council said, recognize that every element of this urban environment that you're planning is connected, whether it's a piece of infrastructure or a social plan. You do one thing in this area, it will have a trickle effect in others. If you change the environment in some way, it will likely have economic consequences, social consequences. If you build a road, you can do that in a variety of ways, or any infrastructure. Again, social, economic, and environmental implications. Integration is important. Sustainability, they say, make sure that you plan for our own needs in Edmonton today, make sure you meet them, but let's not do that at the expense of future generations. So that creates a challenge for us to understand and anticipate what those future challenges might be. That's sustainability, great principle. Livability, make sure that Edmonton is a place that people will choose to live, and a place, and build a city that will reinforce a sense of well-being in the citizens. And of course, innovation. If any change, whether it's continual improvement, whether it's transformation, it starts with innovation. So 4 nice principles that we have operationalized and want to even continue to operationalize going forward. The 6 goals, they didn't stop there, and in this 23-page document, they had 6 goals: transform Edmonton's, oops, where do I, okay, there we go. Transform Edmonton's urban form, shift Edmonton's transportation mode from the automobile, improve livability, preserve and sustain Edmonton's environment, diversify Edmonton's economy, and ensure Edmonton's financial sustainability. Now, with each one of those is a 10-year goal statement, a corporate outcome, and corporate measures. And this is where the way ahead ends. And it passes off to the administration. And this afternoon, each of us are going to be talking about the work that we've done to flush these out in more detail. Gord's going to be talking to you about the way we grow. Rhonda, the way we move. Heather, the way we live. I'll tell you a little bit about the way we green. And these 2 plans, our economic development plan and our financial sustainability plan, under development, should be largely completed before the year is out, but certainly they're on fast tracks and moving forward. And then what's really, really important to understand is that there are a whole body of major plans. This is where the rubber really hits the road, that support all of this aspirational planning above. And in the case of the way we green, we've identified 40 plans, most of them internal, some of them external to the City of Edmonton, that absolutely are critical to the success of our goals. And this could be air quality plans, this is stormwater management plans, wastewater plans, forestry plans, goes on and on and on. But this is where, as I said, the rubber hits the road. So our challenge in all of this is, okay, this isn't working well, but there should be arrows going through there showing that integration of these plans is totally critical. Each one of them, planning groups responsible for these plans, absolutely has to understand that whatever we do in green or lit, it's going to have an impact in the other plans. So we need mechanisms, operational ways of working together so that we are able to not negatively affect the goals that are in other plans. And I think the theme that personally I consider to be the most important theme in all of this is the concept of sustainability. And this is a very important idea that is at the center of everything that we are doing in all of these plans. And the old Rutland Commission definition that you all know, a way of living which meets the needs of the present, but doesn't compromise the ability of future generations to meet theirs. A nice, feel-good definition, but one that we are trying to put to work in the city of Edmonton. And it recognizes that sustainability isn't just about green. When we took the way we green to City Council last July, we had the Chamber of Commerce, we had UDI coming and telling us that if you look at environment in isolation from the economy, you're going to be in big trouble. And they're absolutely right. And that's the idea. There are three pillars to sustainability. And our job as planners in all of these different areas is not to come up with just a great environmental plan, but to come up with an environmental plan that also supports the social and economic goals of our community, and to try to land on that sweet spot right in the middle. And that, I'm not going to pretend that we've landed on the formula for that, but I think it's a big step forward to say that the City of Edmonton understands that we need to be able to develop a sustainability lens so that everyone in our organization, whether you're at the resource level plan or on the front lines of the organization, if you're making a decision, you have the mental model so that you can understand whether your decision is putting you close to that spot or moving you away from that spot. So that is part of our implementation efforts, is to develop a sustainability lens going forward. I think most of my slides are missing here. Oh, there we go. There we go.
I don't know what happened.
Okay, I'm going to just talk a little bit now about the way we green, and that was a plan that was approved by City Council in just about a year ago, in July of 2011. And it took an approach that was different from environmental strategic plans that you might have seen 20 years ago. It didn't ask the question, what can we do to help the environment? It really took more of a risk management approach and said, there are some significant risks that exist in the environmental area, the way we compartmentalize our challenges, that are environmental in nature, that could affect and could diminish the quality of life in Edmonton or any North American city in the future. So we identified a number of them. We identified climate change. We identified energy vulnerability as we go forward. We identified loss of biodiversity. We identified food security, and on and on. Don't have time to get into all of those, but I do want to tell you that we identified energy and climate change as the top challenges facing Edmonton that needed to be addressed going forward. And so we created a number of goals. One of those goals was to be a carbon neutral city. By definition, if you're not a carbon neutral city, that means you're adding to the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and that's not a good thing. Energy sustainability, we're a city that right now is getting 98.5% of its energy from fossil fuels. We're saying that, by definition, is not sustainable either. Every day we become more dependent on fossil fuels. Every day there's less of the resource. Over a long enough period, that becomes a challenge. So what do we start doing as a community while we're still not in a desperate situation to address that? And the punchline here, again, is the solutions that we're looking at are infrastructure related. I'll just zip through them quickly. We've done a really interesting piece of work. I'm not aware of any city other than the city of Calgary in the world that's done this, but we've asked the question, based on where we're at today in terms of our greenhouse gas emissions and the need to reduce 80% by the middle of this century, by 2050, reduce 80%, is that possible? Now, many cities have said that's our target, we want to do it, but do they really understand what the big actions are that are required to do that? So we've done over the last 4 months, with the help of Pembina Institute and HB Lanark, some interesting modelings of, is this possible at all? What's it going to look like? And so we've looked at the pieces and we say, yeah, but business as usual is not going to get us there. The big piece is the Alberta electric grid, as you all know, very high carbon intensity today. It's going to come down over the next 10 years, but not the level that would be needed to achieve that 80% reduction. So we've got some ideas on that. In terms of our urban form, Gord's going to tell you that the way we grow promotes a minimum of 25% of new housing to be happening in our mature neighborhoods. And that's absolutely going to happen, and probably a little bit more, to achieve that 80% reduction target. Transportation systems, we're going to have to push harder on LRT, active modes, TOD, buildings of all types. Not just the new stuff, that's easy, but the existing stock is going to have to become a lot greener to achieve that 80% goal. We have a green building plan that maybe some of you even helped to contribute to work on that is going to executive committee next week. Large industrial facilities, our refineries, our cement companies, they're going to have to play a part in the solution. Vehicles. So this is my last slide, but this is sort of the punchline in terms of climate and in terms of greenhouse gas reduction. This red dotted line along the top here, this is our best projection of business as usual. If we keep going the way we're going, there's going to be a lot of really wonderful things that will happen. We will see buildings become more efficient just through market forces. We'll see vehicles, we'll see consumer behaviors. But with the growth that's going to happen in Edmonton, that's sort of the projection of greenhouse gas emissions. Now, this gray line is what our modelers think is possible. If we take all the solutions that seem reasonable today, that are out there, that are close to being cost-effective or cost-effective, that's what we could do. And so all of these wedges are the things that will allow us to bring business as usual down to here. And this first wedge, about 8% of the 80%, that would be from our large industry. This green wedge, another 8%, that would be from land use and transportation. The blue one here this is for building